Hey everyone, this is Schleicher from Gaming Trend and Tabletop Throwdown, and I'm here to tell you about Aviation Tycoon from Mr. B Games. Now, when I got a chance to look at Aviation Tycoon, I thought it was very interesting. It reminded me a little bit of Railways of the World, but maybe a little bit simplified, which is actually not too surprising because Sean Brown was actually a part of the development of Railways of the World. Now, it doesn't mean that it's not a good game because it's maybe simplified. It's definitely a little bit more complex than Ticket to Ride, and it's going to keep you guessing to the very end of the game who is going to come out as the actual winner. So how does this game play? Well, let's take a look and find out. So here we have the board set up for the first turn of Aviation Tycoon. You can see that there are different rounds here depending on the number of players. So here you have a 3-player game, this is 2 to 4, and this is a 5-player game right up there. The red colored numbers indicate that that is a scoring round, and after the turn is over, you will score the money for each of the players and each of the airlines, and then go on to the next round. So at the beginning of the game, you are going to be dealt 2 different shares of stock. So here is an Ocean Airlines and a Mountain Airlines share here. You'll be using these to invest in the different airlines and setting up a tableau for yourself to show what kind of ownership you have. Now, you are going to have some secrecy because you'll have at least one card hidden until the very end of the game. So that can switch things up quite a bit as far as how many shares of stock you own and who is going to own the most at the end of the game, which can be very important. You will also be given a start card like this. So they have different abilities. Super aircraft there. Take an extra stock certificate. Fly a passenger an extra route. So you are going to have these, but they will actually be given to the next player after your first turn. So everyone is going to play with the same different special abilities, and then after each scoring round, they are going to be taken away, and then new start cards will be drawn for the different abilities. So each turn is made up of different steps. The first step is to advance a turn marker, although this one here, we're already at number 1 for the very first turn, so that won't be actually moved. Then after that, you're going to turn over an event card from this deck here. So the event card makes each turn slightly different. So this one here will give $2,000 to Ocean Airlines when their route is used instead of $1,000. All players receive $1,000 per share of Jungle Airlines. This one's very similar to that one, except it's Ocean Airlines. And then, like this one here, Dallas's closes turn due to bad weather. And then a partnership, any passenger moving on Desert or Mountain Airlines, pay money to both airlines. This is going to switch up each turn slightly, so it's going to change your strategy for every turn as well, just a little bit. You may think that you might want to grab a certain share, but then you notice that one of these partnerships comes up, or that you're going to get extra money for a particular airline during that turn because they're going to be paying twice as much for that airline, and you may think you may want to invest in more shares in that airline because they're going to be used this turn. So that's something you definitely want to consider with the event cards. So at the beginning of the game, each of the players is given one of these start cards here. So this one here, fly a passenger an extra route. Draw a passenger from the bag and place it on any city. Remove one route marker of your choice from the map. Add an extra route marker. These are special abilities. So you're going to be able to do that as your first player action if that's what you do for that turn. It may be that you need to use it at a different time, but once your turn is over, this will get passed on to the next person. So you got to remember that you'll have to use that during your turn, and that you'll get something different for the next turn. After that, you will draw a share, and if you take a look here at the left part there are 3 shares there, and it's very much like Ticket to Ride, where you can either take one of the shares that's already out there, or you can draw from the pile and take a random one and see what you get. That is very typical of this kind of game here, and you'll want to make sure that you keep that in mind when you are drawing for different stock. That if you draw it from these here, they will know what you have in your hand, but you're also going to be actually playing one of your shares after you draw one as well. So even if you draw a share from the deck right here, it's possible that it may actually be hidden for a while, or you can just go ahead and play it as well. Once that's done, you're going to take one of these airline markers here. And this is for the blue or the ocean airlines. You have the yellow desert airlines, the red mountain airlines, and the green jungle airlines. And you're going to put those onto the board. You don't have to do that during your turn. However, if you do that, you have to have it match one of these spots here. The color has to match the plane that you put on. So you can put a green on here, or like a red on here, a blue right here, or like a yellow right here. Now the direction of the routes does not matter, and you don't have to put the planes in that direction either. All this basically does is increase the value of the route. So the more planes like this, the more airline route markers you have, the more value it's going to be worth, and the more the bank for each airline is going to make for a passenger who moves along that route. So let's say that this is actually the third turn here, and that is going to be a scoring round. This is when the airline payout happens. The first thing you're going to do is take one of your shares and play it into your tableau in front of you. Every player is going to do that, and what makes that important is you're going to have these president shares here, and each different airline is actually going to have their own separate one. And the player who is the president will actually be getting slightly more money for owning the president's share than everyone else. They will also be paid first during the actual payout. Now, these president shares are given the first time that a share for an airline is played in front of someone in their tableau, but after that, the president share goes to the person who has the most shares. So if someone has one share of Desert Airlines out, someone else has to have 2 Desert Airlines shares in front of them before the first player gets a second share out to actually take the president's share. So during the playout, the player with the president's certificate of the airlines will take a $1,000 bonus from that airline's bank, and then the president will take $1,000 per share of stock they own from that airline's bank. So when you put down money for the different airlines, you have to remember that that is going to be going to the president first. So that's why the president's share is very important. After you've paid the president and they have gotten the full amount and there's still money left over, you pay the player with the second most amount of shares $1,000 per share of stock they own. If there's a tie, resolve it by the first player or the closest clockwise to the first player, and repeat that for the third, fourth, fifth. And if you actually still have money left over, it goes back to the president. However, they do not get the $1,000 bonus during that turn. Once that's finished, you reset the special action cards just like before and move it. Instead of moving it to the next player, you are actually going to go and put them back in the box and give everyone new special action cards. Once you get to the 6th and the 9th, that's the end of the game. And once the game ends, the player that has the most money wins the game and is crowned the Aviation Tycoon. So in the end, what do I think of Aviation Tycoon? I really like the weight. It's a little bit heavier than Ticket to Ride or Settlers of Catan, but it's not so heavy as Steam or Age of Steam or Brass or even Railways of the World that you're going to have a hard time to find people to play it. It's also not going to take nearly as long as even Railways of the World because it's a much simpler game. It has a set number of turns, and it can really go quickly as long as you have people that know what they're doing and aren't going to take too long to take their turn. It actually goes by really quick, and you don't have to worry about like an auction mechanic that can drag on or anything like that. There is a lot of strategy though, because you have to remember you own shares in the actual airline and not actually owning the routes that are on there. So it's very different from Ticket to Ride. And you're never going to know who's going to win at the end of the game, especially with those surprise shares of common stock at the end. You have to determine if you're going to try to diversify into multiple airlines or if you're going to try to become the president of the airline or a particular one and just continue to keep on growing that one. The moving of the passengers, you can help someone else by moving one of those passengers even though you think it's going to be for you, because that money doesn't go to you directly. It actually goes to the bank that the airline uses, and that really gives you a lot of strategy involved as far as which cubes you're going to move or if you're going to take one and put it to a different city. There's really a lot to go and think about, but it's really not that complex of a game that it will scare people away after they've gotten a chance to try it out. So I recommend that you try it out and take a look and back this on Kickstarter now.